The world's greatest monster trucks are being readied for a battle inside the Nassau Coliseum, Long Island, New York. It's a busy time in the pits as the superstars get ready to go side by side for one of the biggest trophies in monster truck racing, the win at the Long Island Coliseum. And you know how important it is just by scanning the parking lot. Truly, America's sports, as you can see, license plates from all over the country coming in to watch the monster trucks do battle at the Nassau Coliseum. We're seeing them from all across the country, and we're going to show you action from all across the country today here on Super Trax. Because while we've got the monster trucks locked up in the Nassau Coliseum, we'll also jet all the way across the country and take you to Anaheim Stadium for the sheer outright power and the excitement of two-wheel drive tractor pulling. These are the funny cars of the pulling sport, a unique blend of exciting and exotic body styles and sheer power in the 6,200-pound super modified two-wheel drive class. All the best from across the country will be going at it, trying to grab the victory in the home of the Rams and the Angels, Anaheim Stadium in California. It's all today. Superstars are in the Super Building, the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. I'm Scott Douglas on Super Trax, and we're ready to go with qualifying for the monster truck racers here at the Nassau Coliseum. It'll be side-by-side racing later here on Super Trax, but right now we're going against the clock to set the brackets for the first round of competition. And right off the bat, the legendary Gravedigger will go on the clock. And Dennis Anderson posts a good-looking time. The Gravedigger coming in at 2.41 seconds. So Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger has posted a time that may be tough to beat. We'll get a good idea of just how tough it is to beat right now, because here comes the defending U.S. Hot Rod Association World Champion, Fred Schaefer's Barefoot Chevrolet out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Again, the time for Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger, 2.41. Barefoot wanting to beat that to get fast qualifying time, and of course, lane choice throughout the night. A good-looking time, and we'll wait for the official reading from the U.S. Hot Rod officials as we look at the replay. It was a smooth run for Barefoot, and indeed, the Chevrolet has nosed out Gravedigger for the top spot. Barefoot at 2.34 seconds. By 7/100ths of a second, the Barefoot Chevrolet sits at number one. Well, here comes the big bad Ford out of St. Louis, hoping to knock the Chevy from that top spot. It's Jim Kramer. This is Bigfoot number 9 out of St. Louis, Missouri, and Kramer has to beat a 2.34 to get fast qualifying time. Not a bad-looking run, but he didn't really seem to get that oomph out of the starting gate, and the time is just a bit slower than the Chevy times that we've seen posted earlier, 2.57 for the Bigfoot Ford and Jim Kramer. Nonetheless, that should still get him close to the top of the qualifying. The Outlaw Ford is next up out of New Jersey. This is Nick Rossi, ready to go in the Outlaw. Boy, never really got it going. The Outlaw seemed to make a lot of noise, but not a lot of horsepower. He did not get any speed up at all, really, and no air as he went over the cars. So the Outlaw's time is much slower at 3.34 seconds for Nick Rossi out of Pennsauken, New Jersey. The Black Stallion Ford is our next to go on the clock. Michael Vodder, ready to go in the Black Stallion. Time to beat 2.34 of the Barefoot Chevrolet.
Vodder's the Black Stallion. It's supercharged Ford.
Good-looking run for the Black Stallion. As the upstart takes on some of the biggest names in the sport, he looks like he's posted an excellent qualifying time on the replay. You can see very smooth, a nice shot from Michael Vaughters and the Black Stallion, and a very competitive qualifying time at 2.60 for the Black Stallion Ford. Well, here's one they all know they have to beat anywhere they go in the country, and they see the Taurus GMC pulling up alongside. Jackie Willman out of Granite City, Illinois, ready to do battle. Did not look like a real good run, and to be perfectly blunt, it didn't sound real good. I don't know if there are some problems with Taurus, but he did not sound sharp. And indeed, the time is a little slower than the other top trucks at 2.68. So Taurus is safely qualified into the first round, but he'll be toward the bottom of the bracket. Next up is going to be Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher, another Chevrolet, and this is another one of the state-of-the-art trucks with a cantilever suspension, and you'll notice the way each wheel seems to react individually, and it takes a lot of the stress, a lot of the bumps out, so the driver has a much smoother ride. Outstanding shot for Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher. On the replay, you can see he had a whole lot of power coming out of the hole. Doesn't get too much air, just enough to get it rolling, and he is the new fast qualifier. The Carolina Crusher at 2.31 seconds has knocked Barefoot down to number 2. Our final qualifier is a big bad Ford out of Woodstock, Illinois. Rob Bush and First Blood. Rob doesn't sound real good either at the starting line, but that may just be a psych job as he's ready to hit it hard. Didn't sound good at the starting line, but looked pretty good as he went over the cars. Rob Bush of the First Blood Ford. Here he goes up the ramp, launches over the cars, and it's a good run at 2.57. Interesting, that's the exact same time that the Bigfoot Ford had a little bit earlier. So the Ford's locking it in, but it's a Chevy on top. The Carolina Crusher Chevrolet, the fast qualifier, at 2.31. The Barefoot Chevrolet, 2.34. The Gravedigger Chevy at 2.41, and then the Fords are coming after him. Monster trucks about to go side by side in competition now. This is elimination competition. One will move on, one will go home in each matchup. The Carolina Crusher Chevy takes on the First Blood Ford. Then the Gravedigger Chevy against the GMC of Taurus. The bottom half of the bracket, the Bigfoot Ford, the Jersey Outlaw Ford, then the Barefoot Chevrolet against the Black Stallion Ford. That's how they match up. And right off the bat, we'll see our fast qualifier, Gary Porter out of Wadesboro, North Carolina, the Carolina Crusher Chevrolet against Rob Bush and the First Blood Ford out of Woodstock, Illinois. Give it to the Chevy cam. A close race, but Gary Porter pulls it out in the Carolina Crusher Chevrolet, knocking off the First Blood Ford and the consistent running Rob Bush. On the replay, we look at the isolated camera on Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher. A nice launch off the ramp. Good shape all the way through. An excellent run, and he needed it to knock off First Blood. Carolina Crusher gets the victory. Well, you talk about a main event matchup anywhere in the country. You see U.S. Hot Rod Monster Trucks. You have it right here. And indeed, this matchup has been a final in a lot of places. The Gravedigger against Taurus. Certainly two of the real marquee names in the sport today, and they have to go at it in the first round here at Uniondale. Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. Jackie Willman's Taurus, Granite City, Illinois. Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger advancing into the second round of competition. And in qualifying, I mentioned Taurus did not sound well at all, and you can see indeed Jackie Willman has a truck that's in trouble. On the replay, Gravedigger with a nice shot, getting up the launch ramp in good shape, and a good solid run for the Gravedigger. Two Fords are ready to go at it now. It's the Outlaw in the far lane out of Pensacola, New Jersey. That's Nick Rossi. And closest to you, the original monster truck family, the Bigfoot Gang out of St. Louis, Missouri. This is Jim Kramer in the state-of-the-art Bigfoot number 9. Rossi pulls Outlaw to the staging lane. As soon as he is set, they'll look for a green and get ready to get it on. foot by about a truck length, records the victory, and Jim Kramer will move into the second round of competition. Once again, the isolated replay puts you right on Bigfoot, and here he comes into your home. Jim Kramer takes the victory. Boy, got into a little bit of the mud lane in the center, but otherwise in pretty good shape for the Bigfoot Ford. Well, there's another Ford, Black Stallion, Michael Vodders, and the Black Stallion Ford will have the dubious honor of taking on the defending champion of the world, Fred Schaefer, and the Barefoot Chevrolet out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. They pull away the banners that lined them up, and they're ready to go. Black Stallion certainly competitive, but not enough to handle the champ as Freddie Schaefer puts Barefoot into the next round. The replay on the Barefoot Chevrolet will show you basically a picture-perfect run. Right up the ramp in good shape, wheels straight, hitting the cars hard, and on to victory for Fred Schaefer and the Barefoot Chevrolet. So we're down to a final four after Carolina Crusher dispatches First Blood, Gravedigger beats Taurus. The bottom half of the bracket saw Bigfoot take out Jersey Outlaw, and Barefoot has eliminated the Black Stallion. We're going to do some tractor pulling, more monster trucks later, here on Super Trax. We were talking earlier about the U.S. Hot Rod Association truly presenting America's sports, and here we go, across the continent now. This time on the far west coast, Anaheim, California is the host site for the two-wheel drive super modified truck pulling competition. And you are really going to see a unique array of vehicles, exotic body stylings, and certainly a ton of power in these massive machines. Well, we really start off with one of the more unique ones right here. This is a Chevrolet C-Cab, and it's Jim Brockman, the Kodiak In-Laws and Outlaws. He's going to be our test puller. The test puller is simply the man who hooks to the sled first to try and give the U.S. Hot Rod officials and the sled team a feel for if they've got the sled weighted right and if they've got the transfer case geared right. And so that's what we're doing right now as the test pull will send Jim Brockman down the track. Jim Brockman bangs it out. It's a full pull on the test pull. And our understanding is that the U.S. Hot Rod officials think they want to at least change the gearing of that transfer case a little bit, make that weight box ride up a lot faster. So Brockman will have to come back and pull again a little bit later in the competition. A good pull for Jim Brockman, but as the test puller, he will now have to come back and try it again on a different sled. So our first official puller will be the Miller Ride. This is Steve Jaski. The Jaski team out of New Berlin, Wisconsin, Bud Jaski, several-time U.S. Hot Rod Association tractor pulling champion. Well, Steve pulls with those Miller colors in the two-wheel drive classification. And again, Steve Jaski will be our first official puller after the test pull of In-Laws and Outlaws has been thrown out because they've changed the sled. Jaski will have a green flag condition on the track, and here he goes. And that'll be our first official distance. Steve Jaski coming up a little bit short of that full pull mark. The distance is going to come in at 213 feet 10 inches. 213.10 for Steve Jaski and the Miller machine. There you see a pretty good looking pull, just not quite enough to bang it out the back door. Next up, a very unique vehicle. This is Dennis Marson's Desperado. He will now hook to the sled and try to beat the 213.10 laid down by Steve Jaski just a moment ago, the Desperado. You see the hands go up in the air. That's to show the U.S. Hot Rod officials when they hook up the sled to the tractor that he is off the throttle, and he knows that he's being hooked up. Now he takes the slack out, and he's ready to pull. Going to have enough. Did not have a real good sound to that engine as it came up the track. Dennis Marson is going to be well short of the lead distance that Steve Jaski sat down a moment ago. Here on the replay, you see him getting it out, staying right in the middle of the track, but it just wasn't there for the Desperado. Dennis Marson at 194.11. 194 feet, 11 inches for the Desperado. 2:13.10 is still the distance to beat. And here is one of the true superstars in this side of the sport, the two-wheel drive pulling, the Toyota of Bill Romsberg, known as the Rice Burner. And again, this is the only Toyota currently pulling in this division, and certainly Romsberg may have something on a lot of these other guys because he really is able to keep that Toyota towards the head of the class. The slack is out, and the three-time United States Hot Rod Association two-wheel drive champion is ready to try and take the lead here at Anaheim. Excellent pull. That'll be enough to take the lead. It's not a full pull, but it will be number one, at least for the moment. Alberton, Pennsylvania's Bill Romsberg and the Rice Burner Toyota. Here it is on the replay. The official distance, 222 feet, 3 inches for Bill Romsberg and the Rice Burner out of Pennsylvania. That is now the distance to beat. The Rice Burner sits in the number one spot. But we saw Dennis Marson a moment ago in Desperado. Didn't have a great pull, only came in at about 194. But he may have learned something about the track because Marson is now back in his other vehicle. This is Power Play. Say he learned something. That Keith Black Hemi engine gets Power Play out the back door. It's a full pull for Dennis Marson and Power Play. Watch it again on the replay. Look at that nose up in the air and all the power on the back wheels, and it is just taking it out. A great pull for Dennis Marson and Power Play. Now you've got to have a full pull to make the pull-off. And here's a guy certainly capable of doing just that. This is Dan Walsh, the Irish Challenger team out of Wisconsin. His brother Dave, one of the top tractor pullers in the country, and Dan is at the head of the class in two-wheel drive truck pulling. The green colors of the Irish Challenger, blazing in Anaheim and ready to try and force a pull-off. At this, he was about to drive it right out of the stadium and turn left, head on down the street and grab a hamburger because Dan Walsh had plenty. A full pull for the Irish Challenger. Here it is again on the replay, and you can see he was just taking this baby right on out the door. Finally, Mike Speller down at the end line, the U.S. Hot Rod official says, "Go ahead, stop, Dan, you're out of here." A full pull for the Irish Challenger. So now we know we're going to have a pull-off. We'll see how many trucks are able to make it. Jim Brockman is back in the Kodiak In-Laws and Outlaws. A few moments ago, he was the test puller, recorded a full pull, but that pull was thrown out when they changed the sled. Let's see if Brockman's got what it takes to do it again. Power Play is in a pull-off with Irish Challenger. Can In-Laws and Outlaws join them? Brockman's got the slack out. You see his right hand on the throttle, and here he goes. Here, Jim Brockman says, "Hey, I don't care if you change the sled. We've got what it takes tonight." And indeed, In-Laws and Outlaws has done it again, and this full pull counts. You can put Jim Brockman into the pull-off with Dennis Marson and Dan Walsh. And we've still got more top competitors to go. This could be a very large pull-off. Here comes Aftershock and Jerry Fortier, ready to go in Aftershock. It takes a full pull. We'll see if Aftershock can make it a four-way pull-off. We've got 3 out the back door right now. Aftershock now still just getting things set. They've got him hooked to the sled, and Jerry takes the slack out, ready to go now. It'll be a green track condition for Aftershock. Not going to get there. A little short of the 200-foot mark for Jerry Fortier at Aftershock. We'll watch it again on the replay. Never seemed to get a whole lot of speed up, and indeed, the sled pulled him down just short of the 200-foot mark. The distance is 194.3, 194 feet 3 inches for Aftershock. So we still have 3 with full pulls, and frankly, 5 of the top competitors are still to come here in this two-wheel drive competition. Here's one of them, John Shipman, rolling out the first of his 2 trucks. This is Temporary Insanity. We'll see him back out a little later with a 91 Ford he calls Mad Dog's Revenge. So Temporary Insanity will try to take it out. If he doesn't, Shipman hopes he can gain a little knowledge of the track that'll help him when he brings out his other two-wheel drive. This is Temporary Insanity. Out of bounds. He pulls it back in. We're looking. They're giving an indication that he did not go out of bounds. That was dangerously close to an out-of-bounds run. Mike Speller, the official at the end of the track, says no, it's a good legal run, and that means it's a full pull for John Shipman in Temporary Insanity. Almost out of bounds, and instead, he's into the pull-off. That makes 4 that we know will go to the pull-off, and here comes Magnum Jr., hoping to make it a 5-some. Butch Schultz and the Magnum Jr. Ford. John Shipman's Temporary Insanity, Dennis Marson and the Power Play, Dan Walsh and the Irish Challenger, Jim Brockman and In-Laws and Outlaws. They are in the pull-off so far. We'll see if Butch Schultz can join them right now. Yes, indeed. It is a 5th full pull at Anaheim, this time for the Ford known as Magnum Jr. Again on the replay, Butch Schultz, with plenty to spare, takes it all the way out of Anaheim Stadium and goes into the pull-off. We now have 5 that we'll see trying to determine this championship when we get to pull-off time. But there are still more with a chance to qualify. John Shipman already has one of his vehicles in the pull-off, that being Temporary Insanity. He'll try to make it 2 right here, because this is Shipman's Mad Dog's Revenge 1991 Ford. Shipman backs it in, gets hooked up as you get a look at the fans having a good time with the U.S. Hot Rod Association here at Anaheim Stadium. It's a green flag condition on the track, and here comes John Shipman and Mad Dog's Revenge. Well, John had gotten into the pull-off earlier with Temporary Insanity, but he'll have only 1 truck in the pull-off. Mad Dog's Revenge comes up a little bit short. The distance, 215.10, 215 feet, 10 inches for John Shipman and the Mad Dog's Revenge Ford. But again, John's certainly not done this week on Super Trax. He'll bring Temporary Insanity back a little later. Well, you talk about one of the Ford fan favorites. We just saw one in Mad Dog's Revenge. Here's another. John Heilman and the Golden Thunder Ford Thunderbird out of Rockford, Ohio. Heilman, another of the veterans who races in more than one division in this pulling sport. He competes here in the two-wheel drives and also has one of the 7,200-pound super modified tractors that he calls Ohio Gold. John Heilman trying to join the pull-off. The The Thunderbird Super Coupe is not going to get there this time around. John Heilman never really seemed to get it going as he bogs down short of the full pull line. The distance is 214 feet, 8 inches. A disappointing pull for John Heilman as Golden Thunder will not make the pull-off at Anaheim. Our final competitor with a chance to make the pull-off is Bob Borba, the one and only. The Anaheim crowd ready to go. Several of you can see sticking those earplugs in and getting ready because they know Bob Borba is really going to turn the noise level up here in Anaheim right now. He's got a problem, a lot of smoke. The noise hand grenaded the whole thing. And there's a fire on the engine as well. Bob Borba absolutely explodes the engine of the one and only. The fire extinguishers are there. They're going to get it calmed down. Indeed. Who brought the marshmallows? The fire's still blazing. And, of course, that is kind of scary when you see those alcohol fires. You don't get a real big flame, but nonetheless it's burning, and they get her put out. What a bad break for Bob Borba. An expensive pull here in Anaheim as he absolutely hand grenades the engine, and this one goes to the scrap heap. Once again on the replay, you can see at the end of the run, the smoke started billowing out. Bob knew he was in trouble at this point. He tries to get every inch he can, and poof, there you saw it. The engine explodes, and Borba can only go 173 feet, 8 inches. You see the 5 in the pull-off. Power Play, Challenger, Kodiak, In-Laws and Outlaws, Temporary Insanity, and Magnum Jr. Rice Burner finishes 6th. The Toyota is 6th. Then it's Mad Dog's Revenge 7th, followed by Golden Thunder, Miller High Life, Desperado, Aftershock, and unfortunately the one and only exploding the engine finishes last.
Okay, Klaus.
No more California dreaming for the best of the super modified two-wheel drive truck pullers because it is now reality time. One of them is going to be the champ at Anaheim Stadium. It'll either be the Magnum Junior Ford of Butch Schultz, the Temporary Insanity of John Shipman, Dan Walsh's Irish Challenger, Jim Brockman's In-Laws and Outlaws Chevy C-Cab, or the Power Play machine of Dennis Marson. We are ready for the pull-off, and it is indeed Power Play that will first get the green flag on the track. Everybody starts from scratch. You see Dennis Marson putting his hands in the air. That's to show the officials they can hook him to the sled, and he is off of the throttle. Now he's ready to go. This is Power Play, and nobody has a distance. The 5 in the pull-off start from scratch. This determines the champ. Here we go. Outstanding pull. Looked great. Dennis Marson in Power Play came down the track beautifully. Remember, the sled is much heavier now than when they pulled earlier, and he got it right around the 200-foot mark. And I'm going to tell you, that's going to be tough to beat. Dennis Marson's Power Play at 202.9. 202 feet, 9 inches for Power Play. Now Dan Walsh and the Irish Challenger certainly figures to be one of the toughest competitors, but he's also got a heck of a shot that he's got a best, the 202.9 that Dennis Marson put down just a moment ago. The Wisconsin-based Irish Challenger, the Mean Green, ready to try and take it on down. Dan Walsh gets everything set, all the gear in place, and now he'll get a green flag on the track. The track belongs to the Irish Challenger. I think he's done it. It appears he has pulled just a little past the 202.9 mark that was put down by Power Play a moment ago. You see it on the replay. A picture-perfect pull for the Irish Challenger, and there it is. 206 feet even. We have a new leader. It's Dan Walsh and the big, bad Irish Challenger Ford at 206 feet. Jim Brockman's got quite a job in front of him, and he knows it. The first two pulls have been outstanding here in the pull-off. But remember, Brockman has already made 2 full passes. He was the test puller, took it out of here. They heavied up the sled throughout his first pull. He came back and did it again. Now, does Brockman, on a third pull here at Anaheim, on a third hook, does he have enough to reclaim the lead? It's in-laws and outlaws. Pulls, not really bad overall, but it just never seemed to hook up for the Chevrolet C-Cab. Here you see it. He never got a whole lot of speed and ends up bogging down a little short of the 200-foot mark. It's 190 feet 6 inches for Jim Brockman and in-laws and outlaws. Again, 196. He is about 16 feet short of the lead distance put down by the Irish Challenger. It is once again Ford time. Here's Butch Schultz and Magnum Jr. Distance to beat, 206 feet even. Oh, my, right there. Magnum Jr. breaks on what looked to be a decent run. He had some decent momentum, but on the replay, just all of a sudden, something goes away, something snaps, and you can stick a fork in Magnum Jr. He's done for this thing. It is a disappointing pull in the pull-off for Butch Schultz at 162.8, 162 feet, 8 inches. Well, Dan Walsh is on the edge of victory lane, but before he can take the final step, he's got another bullet to dodge, because here comes John Shipman and Temporary Insanity. The distance to beat, 206 feet even. Our final competitor in the pull-off at Anaheim. Slack is out, track is green, and Temporary Insanity is coming at you. Something broke on the Temporary Insanity ride. Another one goes down. Boy, you could just see, even though he's still got the helmet in front of half of his face, you could see his eyes are just saying, oh no. John Shipman's Temporary Insanity breaks big time on the track at Anaheim. The distance 159 feet, and that means Dan Walsh and the Irish Challenger wins it for the Ford camp. 206 feet even. Dennis Marson's power play ends up with a strong second. Jim Brockman and the Kodiak In-Laws and Outlaws rounds out the top 3 in two-wheel drive pulling from Anaheim. Douglas with you again on Super Trax, and the Monster Truck Superstars are ready for the semifinal round, the Final 4 at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island in New York. And here's the way it'll happen. Gravedigger against Carolina Crusher, and Barefoot against Bigfoot. What a semifinal round we're going to have. The two Chevrolets, Gravedigger and Crusher, looking for the green light. Man, oh man, was that too close to call. The Carolina Crusher Chevrolet of Gary Porter. Let's look at Gary Porter on the isolated replay. The Wadesboro, North Carolina-based Chevrolet looking good against his arch rival, also from North Carolina, Dennis Anderson out of Kill Devil Hills, and the Gravedigger. Let's look at the way the Digger took it out on the isolated replay, and we're understanding now that the U.S. Hot Rod officials have reviewed the tape, and indeed, the win will go to Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher. So a good run for Gravedigger, but not quite enough as the Digger goes down to the feet in the Nassau Coliseum. Brett Kepner standing by with both Gary Porter and Dennis Anderson.
Did you have any idea of the finish line?
No, I had no idea who won at the finish line. I just had my fingers crossed that I did win.
How about you, Dennis? You had to know that you had to feel at least maybe you left with him or ahead of him.
Yeah, well, I felt like I cut a pretty good light, but Gary's been running all night, running good all night, and I figured if I had to lose, I'd rather lose to a boy from Carolina than somebody from Missouri.
Now the big battle, you and Barefoot, the defending world champ. Anything you can do there that you think might give you an advantage?
I'm just going to have to cut a real close light, and hopefully the right lane will give me enough advantage to take the win.
And you know Fred Schaefer will run over you if he has to.
He will, Fred. It's going to be very tough, and it's going to be a close race.
Porter getting ready for Fred Schaefer, but Fred's got a little more business to take care of. First, Barefoot must defeat Bigfoot to make it into the finals against Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher, and Jim Kramer hopes to have a whole lot to say about who's going to the championship matchup. It's Barefoot and Bigfoot. And an impressive victory for Fred Schaefer and the Barefoot Chevrolet. Here he is out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, really dispatching Bigfoot fairly easily on this course in the Nassau Coliseum. Schaefer, the world champion, gets a victory over the original monster truck, the Bigfoot Ford. Here we have Bigfoot on the ISO. Jim Kramer seemed to hit things fine. Barefoot just got the best of him on this day in New York. So it's Barefoot and Carolina Crusher to determine the championship of the Nassau Coliseum in U.S. Hot Rod Association monster truck action. Crusher, a winner over Gravedigger, and Barefoot takes out Bigfoot. The finals coming up a little bit later, but next, one of the world's most daring stuntmen here on Super Trax. You're looking at Brian Carson, considered one of the world's premier daredevils and stuntmen. And here on Super Trax, you will see one of his most dangerous stunts, as he will take that car he's about to climb into, drive up a ramp, go through a pair of explosions, and then T-bone the car into a set of parked cars on the other end of the ramp. Brian Carson has been wrecking cars and pulling off stunts for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, he has destroyed over 1,850 vehicles in his stage jumps and crashes. That's a record mark for most cars wrecked in a stunt career. Carson, in the process, has fractured over 50 bones in his body. As he comes out now, normally his first shot will be just to look at the ramp. Indeed, he's on the brakes, and he's going to pull up just to take a look. There aren't too many bones in the old body that Carson hasn't broken, and he'd like to get out of this one unscathed, but it is one of the more dangerous crashes that Brian Carson performs anywhere in the world, and he has a record for going all over the country and all over the world and trying to go a little bit further and make it a little bit more dangerous every time. Certainly this stunt will rank up there with the greats. And what makes this one so tough, as you watch it, is that he'll go through two huge explosions and then T-bone the car into the parked cars at the other end. The crowd awaits the appearance of Brian Carson, and here he comes. Absolutely awesome stunt. The question is Brian okay? The car is raging inferno at this point, and Carson is coming out. He just finds a way to get out and will now just roll away from the fire as the crew will come over to see if Brian is okay. Man, oh man, what an incredible explosion. The force of the explosion actually caught the car on fire in midair. I think that is why he caught on fire. I don't think it was the impact of the wreck. I think it was the explosion. Let's watch again. You can see the car is already smoking. But he still gets enough momentum there through the first explosion. And indeed, that's what caught him on fire. The first explosion actually caught Carson's car on fire. And so by the time it settled back down, Brian, who obviously did not lose consciousness, had to find one way out. And he did. Let's watch it again. Man. Here it is from the end zone, if you will. What a fireball. And now you can see the car is completely engulfed in flames. The engine compartment is burning. Apparently the wheels have caught fire. And Carson just says, let me out of here. Another angle on Brian Carson soaring through the fire and landing the hard way at the other end, T-boning. Look at the impact at the end. Straight up and down, and then the car settles back down on its wheels. Carson able to get out, before the fire gets inside the compartment. And now the only question is Brian okay? Because he certainly took a whale of a lick at the end of that stunt. The incredible Brian Carson has done it again. I guess that makes car number 1851, and he's okay. There he is. Brian waving to acknowledge the cheers of the crowd. And you know what's amazing? Is he just going to put on the suit, rack it up, and find another arena to try and do something even wilder in again? When you see Brian Carson coming in with the U.S. Hot Rod Association, ladies and gentlemen, get your tickets quick. Only Super Trax can pack this much excitement in 1 hour, because we still have to determine our monster truck champion from the Nassau Coliseum. And it will be two of the heavyweights in the sport, two of the best-known trucks in the world, two of the most talented drivers and most awesome machines. It's the defending world champion, Fred Schaefer, and the Barefoot Chevrolet from Pontoon Beach, Illinois. And the good old boy from Wadesboro, North Carolina, Gary Porter, and the Carolina Crusher Chevrolet. Only one walks out of New York as the champion of the Nassau Coliseum. Will it be the Crusher, or will it be Barefoot? We're just a moment from finding out. Earlier in the semifinals, Crusher had to put away the Gravedigger to get here. Barefoot had to knock off Bigfoot. Both were up to the challenge, but there's one more challenge to go, one more battle to be fought. The finals at Uniondale, New York, in the Nassau Coliseum. Fred Schaefer getting Barefoot staged. Now Gary Porter will bring the Carolina Crusher to the starting line, and once they're both there, we're going to get it on for all the marbles in New York. Gary Porter now rolls up to that start line, and we're about to see who can come out of here with the victory. It's the Carolina Crusher and Barefoot to determine the champion in New York. Here we go. I do not know who got the win. It's too close to call. Carolina Crusher and Barefoot cross the finish line together. The isolated replay. Fred Schaefer's Barefoot Chevrolet. Boy, he looked solid, smooth all the way through. But Gary Porter was equal to the challenge. Look at Porter. Again, a perfect launch off the ramp. Let's see. I believe we have a camera angle right at the finish. This is the tape the U.S. Hot Rod Association officials will look at to determine the winner. As they go flying through the air at the finish line, the U.S. Hot Rod officials are telling us the winner, the Barefoot Chevrolet, by an inch.
Another situation where it took a replay to determine it. It was that close.
I was really worried about it, Brett. That lane over there is a little bit soft, and I'm really surprised, to be honest with you.
I'll be honest with you. Throughout the season, we've seen a lot of come from behind in the air races. We've seen a lot of hole shots. This one looked as dead even as it could throughout the whole race. We'll have to look at it again. How did it feel inside the truck? What went through your mind?
Well, I tried to move over, and I know I was going to get too much air, but I tried to get out of everybody else's tracks because they had the ground tore up so bad, and that's why the truck got so much air, but I took a chance again that and spinning, and I think it paid off.
It sure did, because if it was a win by a foot, it was a win by an inch, no question about it.
Thank you very much, Brett.
This is what it's going to take to come back in that World Championship, too.
That's right, it is. Thank you, Brett.
Congratulations, guys.
Indeed, the difference was only an inch, and that's why he's the world champion. He found a way to come up with that extra inch. Fred Schaefer and the Barefoot Chevrolet winning it all at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York. More action is coming at you next week here on Super Trax.